Hey, all my Scorpio friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about your April 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Scorpio, I'm talking about the chart being based on Scorpio rising. That's the first house. This is also applicable to Scorpio moon, Scorpio suns, as well as those that may have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Scorpio. That's, the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Those would be the personal planets. Um, this is also based on the Pacific time zone. So if you are somewhere else in the world, please adjust for your location. All right, let's jump right in with the beginning of the month, April Fool's Day. The first day of April starts with Mercury going retrograde at approximately 3:15 p.m. in the sign of the Aries, your sixth house, which represents the sign of that is your health, your personal health. And mostly when I think of the sixth house, I very much think of how stress affects the body and how our daily activities create a sense of anxiety within us or a sense of obligation, duty. It can be a bit of a heavy energy, and that energy can affect our health. We also see this is where our work is in the sixth house, employers and employees. It's also a house of service to others, which is kind of interesting because you have it, your sixth house of service is Aries. So there's a real strong pull or influence to be your individual brave self. And in that dynamic, you are being of service to others. It also rules traditionally, the sixth house rules pets. And because it's traditionally ruled by Mercury, it is a routine, everyday routines, how we process our day, how we analyze our lives, how we think about and process information. So what we see on this very first day of April is the planet Mercury that actually naturally rules the sixth house go retrograde, but in the sign of Aries. So this is a rethinking of what I want as an individual for my everyday routines, what I'm going to do in the way of work. Will I birth a new chapter for myself? Will I potentially think about, you know, setting up some sort of entrepreneurial position or something that's more aligned to an autonomy within my work dynamic, which will then help me with my physical being. I want to offer this too, because one of the things about Scorpio rising, having Aries as your sixth house, is you could have challenges with anger and resentment, and that affects how you think, which then affects your physical being. So I kind of want to offer if things like that are coming up, because we've got some energy here as Mercury retrogrades. Now, Mercury has been going forward, so it's already met with the North Node. It's already had a conversation with Chiron, which is the soul's wound that is can be transformed into a gift. And then this point, Eris. Eris is Mars's little sister, so she's very comfortable here in the Aries energy. She represents standing up for yourself. She's a bit of a scrapper. She'll get in your face because she's going to tell you what she believes and she's going to stand up for it. So the first thing Mercury has been doing is stationing in this conversation with Eris. This could be a war in the neighborhood. This could be a war in your mind. This could be a, will I stand up for myself? Won't I stand up for myself? Is this working for me? Isn't it working for me? All centered around your everyday activities, how you make money, how you are service to others, because Mercury is going to head this direction. And ultimately, he's going to settle over here on the North Node before stationing to move forward. So something is going to become so ravenous in your mind. So like, I want this. I don't want something else anymore. I'm kind of done with whatever that last chapter is. We have just experienced at the end of March, our first eclipse of the season, which was a lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra, full moon, accentuating the relationship you have with yourself, your wants, your desires. And now we see Mercury going over this very point of, how do I want that to look for me? How do I want to see my life? What's important? And this first eclipse was in your 12th house, the house where your soul and its imprint is sort of dominant. It's a house where you don't quite see that underbelly of your habitual behaviors, and there's a strong potential that you've given up your power to another in your everyday life. Let's say, for instance, you have a great artistic talent, and yet you're afraid that, if you went out on a world stage, you would be criticized. So instead, you go work for somebody else, and they give you a title, and that title now becomes, your feeling of strength, or your feeling of being a boss in your own life. But at the same time, that title is a mirage. It's not really what you want. This is coming up for Scorpio. And it may seem a little challenging right now, but at the same time, I want to say you're a very brave sign in general. Let's click on your ruling planet here, because we can see that Pluto, who is in Aquarius, your 4th house of home, is having a very tense conversation with Mercury as it goes retrograde. And it's been having that conversation as it moved forward. So home, work, they're like fighting back and forth. And Aquarius it could, indicate a couple of things. You could have had a very unusual childhood. You could have, had very progressive parents. You could have had a disruptive childhood. You could have, you could have even potentially your parents could have been in the aviation business or be scientists anyway. But my point is this, because somewhere you're going through this transformation of how you think it's supposed to be, and what is super important on the deeper level for you to be the true version of your unique self. Because Pluto is also making a sextile, and will continue to make it, to your 5th house, Pisces, where there's dreamy, creative, whimsy energy here. This is like, having a Pisces 5th house is actually super cool for expressing yourself and indicating a strong talent, a gift in some way. It could be a gift in songwriting, actually singing. It could be musical, being able to play an instrument. It could be anything that literally sits in the creative realm. You could be a hotel designer, or somebody who makes things look beautiful. There's so many lovely things going on in this house, but it conflicts on some level with, you're going to have to be really brave here, because this could also be where you're very fearful of not being seen. So here, as you get sort of this spiritual dynamic, that Pluto is like going, come on, release yourself from whatever you're afraid of, wherever you're running away from. And don't worry about where you've been. Don't worry about what your previous thoughts, Scorpio. Now's an opportunity to anchor in new thoughts. So this is very, very powerful. And it is up for the whole month as Mercury goes over these spots. All right. So now, before I move on, at the same time that we start this Mercury retrograde, we were just talking about Neptune making a favorable aspect to Pluto. Well, Venus is joining Neptune in a summit, in a very intimate conversation. It's already started, and as she moves more into alignment with Neptune, as she moves into conjunction, she is going to join the sextile here. So Scorpio will be feeling some very deep thoughts about liberating themselves from something that isn't aligned to a deeper truth of their happiness. Now we see that while all this is going on, we have this growing conjunction happening in the 7th house. The 7th house of not just intimate partnerships, marriage, but also of contractual partnerships, how you create peace, harmony, a sense of comfort, security, cooperation, alignment, flow with others. And this is also going to be focused on money, because Jupiter rules money, Taurus rules money, and Uranus is going to rule the liberation that Pluto is calling forth over here in Uranus's ruling house, Aquarius. So this is super powerful. And again, this is the bottom of your chart, the fourth house of home, of property, of how you actually interpret the roots of your life. And here there may be no roots because this rules space and air, air aviation, air travel. So you may actually want to reframe that and feel more aligned and rooted into what's authentic to you, Scorpio. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is go to the 5th, because on the 5th, we're going to see, let me change the time. Okay, we're going to see Venus enter Aries. Now, traditionally, Venus is not considered in favor. She's in detriment in Aries because it's the furthest from her home here in Libra. But, as I've reflected and meditated on these planets and asked Spirit about it, they've reframed Venus for me because as she understands herself, she's able to go into her second rulership and use her talents and skills to make money. So here in your 6th house, Venus is making that sextile to Pluto. It's been going on for, a week now, we saw. It's going to go on a little longer. Venus is on the world axis. So this is this 0 degree for her is very strong. And while it's not going to last very long, it's powerful for starting that infusion of energy. So I think this is something that you're going to be feeling. Again, there's a cooperative energy between the Aries and the Scorpio energy because you're both co-ruled by Mars. So what's happening, even though all these planets aren't necessarily talking to Scorpio right now, they sit on some sort of background energy. That's the way I feel. I don't know why, I just do. Okay, let's go now to, oh, I know what I wanted to say. I'm sorry. Scorpio, the reason I was bringing up Venus here is because in ancient times, with her being in her detriment, in her where she struggles, where she feels an exile there in Aries, I don't know if that's necessarily true or as true as it used to be, because Venus is, we're starting in these modern times to appreciate the feminine and what it can do and how it can create in ways that have traditionally been thought of as male dominated, energies. So here she's found her divinity, her connection to spirit, her being energy. I believe in myself and I understand the ups and the downs strengthen me, that I'm not meant to walk a flat path of, balance is an ebb and a flow. It's not a flat path. So as she enters Aries, your 6th house of work, she's feeling a little more empowered than she has in the past. She's kind of appreciating a little bit the exile of partnership so that she can focus on herself, figure herself out, and then move into her rulership later this month and start to make things happen for herself. So I'm reframing Venus in Aries. I hope you guys can enjoy that perspective. All right, let's go on to the 8th, where we are going to experience our second and final eclipse of the season. This is a new moon solar eclipse, 11:20 a.m. on April 8th. And I think, as I've been doing these videos, I'm just inspired sometimes by things that don't appear to make sense. They're not necessarily aspected in favor. And yet at the same time, sometimes I think when they're aspected in what is not in favor, it is actually working for you rather than against you. So this new moon, which is the phase of the moon where the male of the sun and the female of the moon come together to plant the seeds in the darkness of night. And here we see it conjunct the wound of Chiron. We're planting the seeds for Scorpio to transform their wound into something that brings bounty and brings a sense of autonomy, a sense of my own passions coming forth. This is all at the Libra degree. So I think that you're planting the seeds for that transformation of your wound that we always talk about. I feel like Venus and Neptune are still making that favorable aspect at this time to Pluto. So as I'm willing to dig deep into, and when I say dig deep, I very much mean it not like for a long period of time, but getting down to a deeper truth that is, a momentary epiphany that I know has been anchoring me to an energy that doesn't serve me. I need to do this to pay this bill. Or if I do this, my parents won't like that. Or blah, the story of where other people somehow dominate how you walk through your world and are authentic to yourself. Because we're very much seeing a lot of energy going on in your 6th and 7th house, and we're wrapping up some energies in your 5th house of creation. So this is a house of divine whimsy and divine creative imagination. It could also be where I just want to hide behind somebody else, be this supporting act to their creativity. Now you're being called forth at this new moon to plant the seeds for what you want. This new moon is only within 4 degrees of this north node, which is ravenous to express a passionate dynamic within your work, your everyday life. And here's Mercury at the same time as we're planting these seeds, reviewing how do I stand up for myself? And we're at the Piscean degree. So we go back to your 5th house of creativity, of romance, of the child, the performer, the entertainment, the fun in your life. And this is the other thing. I'm pointing right now at Saturn and Mars because in their conjunction, they make a blind side quincunx to the south node, which is boomeranging back over here near this solar eclipse. So it's almost as if there is a historic energy that could potentially have thwarted your action. You may have felt like you couldn't do something, and that's why it's making a quincunx to this cooperative Venusian energy here. And now your opportunity is to take this energy and reframe it. Say, I know now that historically things have been one way, but now I'm willing to create structure and be brave as I plant the seeds in this solar eclipse, this fated choice that I get to make as I stand up for what I want in my everyday life. And then we have Jupiter over here, not necessarily talking to this new moon solar eclipse, but it's at the 19th degree now. And this 19th degree is the degree of Libra that matches with Chiron and the new moon. And Uranus is at the Sagittarian degree. So here, Scorpio, this is an opportunity to go in a new direction, to have new beliefs as I align. Jupiter rules beliefs, and there's money here. A lot of this has to do with individual money, an opportunity to be liberated within your partnerships, expressing your skills, and even potentially seeing other people through the idea of clients or vendors or people who use your services or products, and you'll start to see growth. But part of it is planting the seeds from the be, do, have. The what do I want for myself? What do I believe about myself? And then allowing for inspired action before I take action. It's almost having an awareness of what the vibration underneath is. Do I feel if I'm not doing something every day, nothing's moving forward? Or can I feel the underbelly that spirit will inspire me into the next great action? Let's go now we're kind of going to jump to a little past the middle of the month where we go to the 18th, because the energies are pretty much staying up here. So this is a basic theme through the whole month. They'll be coming into these themes will be coming in and out almost like breathing. And you'll be reviewing them and assessing, and then maybe even resting a bit before going back in. The 18th is the first time we see the exact conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter. And while it is fused, this energy is literally like Siamese twins. We have been feeling it since way, way into March. So, this is powerful, but to me, it's most powerful because of the aspect it makes to Mars. And I say this for you specifically, Scorpio, because here it is, the 5th house of your creation and the 7th house of potentially making money through your own creative endeavors by being able to make partnerships with people who will be solid and steady and supporting. I'm not even looking at this right now as intimate partnerships. I'm thinking these are professional partnerships, because Uranus is not the most partnership-oriented planet. It's all independence. Here is independent Mars, and here's expansive and business-oriented in many ways, Jupiter. And it could be very much that you're talking about philosophy, or you're expanding your knowledge in some way, or you've stepped out and done something you never thought you would do, like, go audition for a reality show. I don't know. It could be something super funny or outside of your box. That's the way I want to put it. Now, while we're experiencing this conjunction here, we are seeing Mercury and Venus right up against each other. We knew that these two were coming together, thinking about my money, thinking about if we do the keywords of the first three houses of the zodiac, the Aries being the first, I am, Taurus being the second, I have, and Gemini being the third, I think. Right now, we have the I have and the I think meeting up with what I want. Okay. I hope that made sense to you. And the opportunity to transform any wound I have. It's almost as if there could be an epiphany where the dark spots in your life have made the color pop. If it wasn't for the dark spots in your life, you may not have felt propelled to say, hey, I can't do you anymore. I got to do me. Because again, we're talking about Aries is your sixth house of doing somebody else, in the sense of their agenda, what they want, you're being of service to them. And if it's not aligned to what a powerful Scorpio wants, I don't think it is sustainable. That's my point. And now we see this long continued conversation between Pluto and Neptune. How will you use your creativity and your spirituality, or will you run and escape from it? I believe that as Mars and Saturn have been summiting through your fifth house, there has been a call. And this happened earlier in March when Venus was having a conversation there about how to create structure with your own personal version of your talents and your gifts. Now, these two have been chatting. And while Mars is considered, I don't think either one of these two planets have been considered powerful in Pisces, I would like to transform that, because these planets are over 4 billion years old. And they're not going to be the same. They're going to learn from where they've been. And here's where we have a spiritual sensei in Saturn, where the wisdom is extracted, where the reward is extracted as I understand my mind, the Gemini degree. And they've been having a conversation for quite some time. But now we're looking at this exact conjunction, having an alignment to, let's click on that, to Mars. See, so I'm going to take this off for a second because I want to continue on this. This conversation is given Mars this. He's a knight of the round table. He's a Knights Templar. He's a Freemason who understands how tradition and history can be honored, and yet it can be built upon in a way that is more succinct to Scorpio's entertainment, joy, pleasure, fun, and self-expression. So this is super, super powerful time for you. And because this activity is happening in the opposite sign of self, there is an opportunity for true transformation as you review things in a much, much broader way. Hence our aerial space energy of Uranus, and the broadness and how do I want to phrase it? Jupiter is all, very much about philosophical beliefs, large, broad, and cultural diversity. So here we're going to see a lot of that in play. All right, let's go now to the 19th, where we will see the sun move into Taurus. And so what we're starting to see is these planets in the next month or so are going to start to converge upon this energy. And while Jupiter is about to cross over Uranus, they're going to have another conjunction in just a few days, exact at 22 degrees. And to me, by the end of May, Jupiter will have moved into Gemini. So it'll move away from Uranus, but at the same time, with all these personal planets creeping up on this conjunction, even as it separates, we'll still feel a strong influence of it. So as the sun moves into Taurus, again, we're seeing this continued conversation. And I bring up the sun moving into Taurus because I just felt like it illuminates, what do I want to use in the way of my skills? How do I want to shine? Where's my ego drive here within my seventh house energy of creating harmony, peace, beauty, cooperation? And is that cooperation with another person, or is it with myself? because Taurus in many ways is not necessarily a partnership sign. It's where the soul discovers its voice when it first incarnates, where it discovers its skills, its ability to create through craftsmanship. It's really cool. Okay, and now, oh, almost forgot this. Now we see the exact sextile between Mars in your fifth house and this opportunity to expand unexpectedly. It almost could be, Scorpio, that something happens in a way that, might feel like it's shutting something down, but at the same time, it could be opening something up. Years ago, I got upset with my coworker and I quit my job just out of nowhere. I'm like, I can't do these people anymore. They drive me crazy. And then I started to be Teri. I just felt this intuitive pull that I had enough momentum to launch and just to stay a little bit, with very tight focus so that I didn't freak myself out. Here we see that really strong conversation between Venus and Mercury and the North Node. What do I want? How do I want my everyday life to be? How do I want to feel about myself? And we can even throw Chiron still in this conversation. This is intensity. This is just huge. And this little guy over here, Mars, is asking you to be super brave. Just kind of like take it one step at a time and know that Saturn has supported a stronger structure, that your history in many ways can be a strong platform for your movement forward. All right, now, Scorpio, we're going to go to a full moon focused on you on the 23rd. Full moon is always an illumination. It's an awareness. Something has come to light. This is at 4:48 p.m. Pacific time on the 23rd. And this is in your house of self. Now, the thing that I think is interesting about this particular full moon, and while it's not actually making the sun is not making it square, it's not indicated here. This is a T-square. Let me do it this way. Maybe it'll work. Okay, you'll see it better this way. So a full moon is always an opposition of the moon and the sun. It's the brightest phase of the moon. And this one is focused in on Pluto. This is the focal point. Will I transform? Won't I transform? Will this affect? When we go into the fourth house, we're going into another, in some ways, ancestral influence, because how our parents were treated much often indicates how they'll treat us. And here we're looking at a potential for transformation. Your ruling planet is begging to move from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And here there's going to be this like intense energy. Now, I want to offer this. Full moons are very different than full moon lunar eclipses. Eclipses have a 6-month influence. Full moons can have, a shorter influence, but at the same time, the epiphanies had during that can be long lasting. It sounds contrary, sort of, but I'm focusing again on this sextile, the spiritual feeling that's coming through my transformation. And this half square to Saturn and Pluto I might not be able to know exactly what it was historically that was holding me back, but does it matter? Does it matter? Or is it just about knowing and now allowing myself a new platform for creation? On the 25th, let me move this back. We're going to see not only Mercury moving forward, we're going to see the second exact conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter. And this is, again, this concentrated energy here of your fifth house, your sixth house, and your seventh house. And this is all the I feel invisible house traditionally, I am house, and the I have house. So as we walk into this day where this conjunction is at the 22nd degree, and there's a couple ways I could take this. Number one, it's a Capricorn degree. It can be a little scary because there are theories that this is the kill or be killed degree, but I don't think of this actually literally. I think of it as this 22nd degree is the master number of cooperation, and this is with your own self. Aquarius wants to discover a new version of itself. And Uranus is the supporting planet for that. And here it's in the sign of your own skills in the house of partnerships. And now we have business, commerce, expansion, foreign thoughts, foreign people, foreign ways of being within partnerships, making my money. Now, at the same time that this conjunction has just been continuing to be in our face as it expands bigger and bigger and bigger, we see Mercury has gone direct, but it's still conjunct this north node. My thoughts are ravenous for my individuality. My thoughts are ravenous to experience something other than my frustration or anger. And here's Venus conjunct Eris. I'm going to stand up for what I want. I feel compelled to stand up for what I want. And Mars, while Mars is not, again, considered strong by traditional astrologers in Pisces, I want to reframe this as a knight of the round table, a spiritual warrior who knows the wisdom and the connection with the divine is so important in order for my actions to be successful. So this is so, so, so powerful for you. Let's go now to the 28th, where we're going to see Mars make that exact conjunction here with Neptune at 28 degrees. And I think this is powerful because this reduces down to a 10, which reduces down to a 1. So now we're talking about the master number of thought. We've had a lot of review here with Mercury about my thoughts, about who I am in my service to others, in my passions, in my taking care of my own health as a result of maybe chronic anger or chronic frustration. It's not unhuman to be that way because a lot of us get a raw deal initially. And I think that that's something that you'll be thinking about. Now Jupiter has moved past Uranus. And while this energy will be separating, Venus is going to come marching into her domicile. And so Mars is going to march into his domicile, meaning their rulership, where they're their strongest energy. And we're going to continue to see this influencing us all the way till the end of May. So there's a whole other month of influence going on here. So let's jump to the 30th, the last day of the month, Scorpio. And we see here's Mars and here's Venus. This is super, super strong because now Mars is making a sextile to its brother ruling. These two are brothers in your ruling, in your sign. They both co-rule Scorpio. Now, I'm not really going to address the moon because the moon moves very quickly, but here, this is a real awareness of the underbelly, and the underbelly doesn't have to be as dark as we think it is, but it could be the toxic waste is starting to transform into a spiritual tool that will help me move my story forward. And as Venus moves into your 7th house, she's like, okay, I naturally rule the 7th house. I naturally rule Taurus. I'm here. I feel strong. I had a really good conversation with all these points that used to get me kind of worked up. And now I'm ready to start to implement that peace and harmony that my own sense of creativity gives me. And as we go into May, she's going to get closer and closer to these two planets, and we're going to see another powerful influence on our individual lives. All right, Scorpio, that's it for me for April 2024. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. I do both intuitive readings as well as astrology readings. If you would like to get a reading from me, my information is below in the description. And I hope you'll subscribe, you'll share these videos, and please come back next month. May is going to be very interesting. We're going to see Jupiter move into Gemini, and 2024 is just action-packed with fun things. And it may be a little bit of Mr. Toad's wild ride in the beginning, but as we get our sea legs, we'll be good. All right, Scorpio, see you soon.